Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Alliance, your home on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network for any and all things Star Wars. That's much better. That's going to help. We're just going to leave those on and pretend I've had them on all day. Joining me, I'm Katie, your host, and joining me is Clay, the illustrious Clay. Clay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We're a little flustered. It seems that I will be completely honest. It was like midday today, and I was like, I have Star Wars Alliance today. Crap. Okay. Do I need to watch anything? No, it's just a news day. Cool. I'll get the news, and then we'll be able to talk about it. And then you just told me before we start recording, hey, did you get our notes? And I was like, I don't think so. But it's just
And
me
in
and
my
my notification
defense,
problem.
in my defense, this text message that you cannot read says, I made a news list with links from Star Wars Newsnet and tried to categorize. And you read it, but said nothing.
Oops. Wait a minute. I need proof of this.
It's right above the 2 minutes
Oh,
text message.
it was in the middle of the day. I did not get that text message. Oh, I didn't see it. Oh no.
Y'all, I tried to
Oh.
be prepared. Clay texted me and was like, I didn't read the book. And I was like, well, cool, I didn't read the book either. You want to do solo? And he was like, let's just do news because we had a lot of news. And so I was like, okay, I'll make a list.
I am getting it all
You
together. We should be just fine. We're professionals, Katie. We can do this.
We are professionals. Wop. As Emily D. Baker likes to say, we are professionals. Wop. Um, y'all, so I'm going to dive into the podcast paperwork side of things while Clay continues to open links that I have yet to open either. We are professionals. First things first, Star Wars Alliance is part of Geek Ultimate Alliance Podcast Network, where we have 8 shows, 7 days a week. Starting on Sundays once a month, we have Ultimate's True Believers. On Mondays, we have 2 shows that are bi-weekly. And I forgot to promote my episode again. How many times am I going to do this before I actually just learn to promote my shit? You know, in my defense, y'all, I got a new phone. So I've been locked out of the Slice of Film account, but yes, I could have promoted it on my own personal account because I have those things. Anyways, on on Mondays, 2 shows, bi-weekly, 1 week, Slice of Film. We just went through and did Bullet Train, so that was a lot of fun. Mark and I did that. And then the opposite weeks are Ranger Alliance for all your Power Rangers needs. Tuesdays is DC Alliance with Clay and Travis. Wednesday is superhero discussions with Travis. Actually, I think they've moved to Saturdays for the duration of Harley Quinn. I take that back. Thursdays, you're here. It's Star Wars Alliance Day, unless you're here when we're live or later. But either way, we appreciate you. Fridays is Marvel Alliance Day with Brent and Chris. And then every other Saturday is a walk through the multiverse for all your non-DC, Marvel, or Star Wars news and things. So with that, there are 3 very important ways to support us as a podcast and a network. The first way does cost you a little bit of money, but we appreciate it all the same. It is via Patreon, where we have 2 tiers. The $1 tier helps keep the Kyber Crystals treasury on here, and the $5 tier gets y'all ad-free episodes, exclusive episodes, and any early episodes that we drop. Another very good way to support us is by rating and reviewing your favorite podcatcher of choice. Those ratings and particularly reviews help put us into the feeds of other listeners who may not be following us on social media. I always get tongue-tied on that. Never fails at all whatsoever. The third and final way to support us is by rating. Oh, I already said that one. I got confused. The third and final way to support us is by listening to ads on this podcast. Yes, we are an ad-supported network, ad-supported podcast. We appreciate you listening to those. They do support. Clay or I will give you a warning before those are to occur, but just so you know now, we don't get to choose who the ads are from, nor how many times you hear the same ad in the same episode, nor how loud they are, so that warning should help you prepare those volume levels. Another very good way, hot tip, to get ad-free episodes is by coming and joining us on YouTube. But make sure you please and thank you do the YouTubey things like and comments. Snell typically gives us those comments if they occur. We appreciate you all the same. However you can support us, we appreciate you if you're just here listening. With that, we're just going to be diving into the news because we released 3 episodes. What, 2 weeks ago? No, was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
2 weeks ago, we released 3 episodes. One was our regular episode. Then the other was our Padawan review, which now is a very good time to go listen to it. It has been 2 weeks, so hopefully, if you were interested in reading that book, you've gotten a chance to. And we'd love it if you went and listened to our podcast review about it because it was a lot of fun. Even though we weren't like the most positive on it, we still think it is a decent book for Star Wars. And then of course, happy happy book birthday 1 day late to The Princess and the Scoundrel, which was also the other episode we dropped that week. So those are in the feed. Just scroll back if you're on the single feed, or just scroll back a little farther if you're on the joint feed. But both of those episodes are out there for our reviews for those 2 books. We greatly appreciate it if you go listen. Clay's looking at me like he has something to say, so I'm gonna shut up now.
I have a small little quarrel with Audible right now because currently my Princess and the Scoundrel is not available for me to listen to. It's still on my wish list and it's not. I've already spent the credit for it because I can go to the website, press play, and listen to all 12 hours and 45 minutes of this book. It is unavailable to me on my phone. I'm
Have you
really
tried
upset at this.
restarting the app?
I updated the app. I thought that was gonna fix something. I have I don't see when I switched to Android or to Apple, I kind of lost all knowledge of iPhone like since my very first like smartphone was an iPhone. Then I went to Android. And I kept Android for years and years and years. I was like, I'm not going back to Apple. It's so stupid. I'm never doing it again. Then my best friend from work convinced me, hey, you're getting old. Apple is really simple. Go ahead and just get the next Apple phone. I did. I love it. But now I just find there's small things that are too complicated or just stuff that I don't want to even bother with even trying to attempt. I don't know how to like force close and, like you said,
So,
restart apps.
so you have the little like bar on the bottom?
Yeah. Yeah, so I know to swipe up and I know how to like
Yeah.
force close it that way, but I don't know if there's a way to go like into general, go into your apps and like try to mess with things there. But
I don't
I
think
like
so.
okay, just making sure because I'm going to Audible now. I'm going to it's version 3.78.1 and everything looks like it should be good for Audible. But for some reason, I can't get Princess and Scoundrel, and I'm really upset because I wanted to start it. I mean, cats like since the book's already out, I will say we were given the opportunity to review this 2 weeks prior. Things got in the way, and I wasn't able to listen to all of it. But I just found it a lot easier to wait and hopefully listened on the Audible app.
Yeah.
And I
So
just can't do
just
it.
try
And it
restarting your phone.
you want me to completely restart my phone? I will do that. I will
You're
do
on a
that later.
podcast. You're on a podcast. Do it now.
Okay, well let's go ahead and move on. I will restart my phone and then we'll see if it works. All
All
right.
right, so where are we going first?
Well, I think it would be only the smartest way to go is if we go all the way down this list. So let's go ahead and start with the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian news that we've been getting this past weekend.
Alrighty.
The
So, first things first.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
The Star Wars Disney Plus shows have earned 10 nominations at the Saturn Awards. Bad Batch was nominated for Best Animated Series, Mandalorian was nominated for Best Sci-Fi Streaming Series, and Best Guest Performance in a Streaming Service for one Rosario Dawson. Obi-Wan Kenobi was nominated for Best Limited Event Streaming Service, Best Actor in a Streaming Series, Best Supporting Actress. Oh, I'm sorry. Best Actor in a Streaming Series was for Ewan McGregor. Best Supporting Actress in a Streaming Series was for Moses Ingram. Best Performance by a Younger Actor, Vivian Lyra Blair, and Best Guest Performance in a Streaming Series for Hayden Christensen. Book of Boba Fett was nominated for Best Limited Event Streaming Series and Best Actress in a Streaming Series, Ming-Na Wen.
So here's my problem with this last one, because it kind of goes into our next topic, but we can kind of gush about these awards real quick. But this last one, the Book of Boba Fett, was nominated for Best Limited Event Streaming Service. Now, to my knowledge, limited series means that there is a definite ending, that it's not continuing. That's the entire reason why Moon Knight was not nominated for, I believe, what was the awards that were going around the time of Moon Knight? I can't remember.
Emmys?
I think so. But they didn't want to do anything there because of the possibility of Moon Knight continuing.
Right.
If the Book of Boba Fett is a limited event streaming series, why are they getting a season 2? You know?
And that's the question. So Ming-Na Wen, that's the next piece of news. Ming-Na Wen stated, oh, it's the Mandalorian. Second season of the Book of Boba Fett. I hope. I never count my chickens before they hatch, because in this business, you just never know. But knock on wood, they'll be announcing that soon. I wish people would stop making these things news. She can want there to be a season 2. She can want there to be a season 2 all day long. Doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
It doesn't mean it's
but
gonna happen.
Everyone's like, Book of Boba Fett season 2 is happening. And it was like, no, if you read the quote carefully, she says she does not know.
Chris says season 2's title, The Book of Boba Fett's Guide to Maybe Wanting to Be a Leader or How Not to Be a Leader, and then really wanting to be a leader, but not really bad at all. That's a little bit of a mouthful, Chris. I'm not entirely sure if that works out as a title. Maybe a you know what? That's what you do the episode titles. So episode 1, The Book of Boba Fett Guide. Episode 2, maybe wanting to be a leader. Episode 3, how not to be a leader. Episode 4, really wanting to be a leader. And episode 5, be really bad at it. Boom. And then you have the entire title that you want. No, but I agree with you, because this is how we, as the Star Wars community, as fandoms, get so angry at the fandom that we are a part of, because things don't turn out the way we thought they were going to be turning out. She had said, hopefully there's a season 2. Just like how people in the MCU are always like the whole Rosario Dawson thing. Like, oh, I heard Punisher's coming back, blah, blah, blah. We know that Rosario Dawson, we're going to be talking about Ahsoka later. We know that she is a fangirl, just like we are fanboys and fangirls over our fandoms. She is listening and hearing the exact same things that we are. So when she says something, it's not because, oh, she was, told this very top secret thing about the MCU. No. And you need to understand, these actors are people just like us. They can have hopes and dreams, and of course they're going to want their career to further, no matter what. So yeah, it makes sense that they want a season 2.
And I consider this very different from the TikTok that went viral about the Moon Knight director and Oscar Isaac, and I think it was his daughter that was doing the TikTok, and she asked, "Oh, the people want to know about Moon Knight season 2," and then they point it on Oscar Isaac, and he's like, "What do you think we're here in Cairo for, or whatever?" I consider that very different because that's like a okay, hey, we're scouting locations for season 2. This is she's getting interviewed at a fan Comic Con thing, and is like, yeah, hopefully there's a season 2. Chris said in the chat, WB Discovery would go for a title like this. I mean, I think WB would just go for a title like that, considering Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey and whatever else that title was.
The Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, or
Okay.
are you talking about Alfred, the origins of Batman's butler?
Oh, yeah, that too. that too.
So dumb. Either way, I as well. We kind of had this discussion, of course, at the finale of Book of Boba Fett. They left it open, but I guess we can go back to that conversation now that we have kind of had, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Andor is literally at her doorstep, basically. How do you feel about a Boba Fett season 2 now?
I think Boba Fett and Fennec Shan should just rejoin the Mandalorian in his quest and just be side characters because that's what they were in the TV show. The TV show Book of Boba Fett was not a bad show. It was an okay show. We've been over this. I still think I really enjoy some of the episodes. But I don't, and I say this a lot with Star Wars. I don't know how you put season 2 on the end of it. I don't know who would be interested in seeing Boba Fett run Tatooine. I think that's all that we're going to be. And that's like, you set him up to do that.
Well,
So, I don't know.
the only reason why I could see things develop more in Tatooine is if post Rise of Skywalker plays more into Tatooine and everything else that we know and love. Because right now you kind of already gone and went with where, like, because this is supposed to be followed by the sequel trilogy, right? Because we are smack dab in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens as of right now. With the Book of Boba Fett, with the Mandalorian, with all of that, we're basically right there in the middle. With in regards to
more on the early half,
more on the early
than the
side,
later half. But
yes. But that's what I mean. You can't say, oh, we're doing this to follow up more on, and I guess you could, because I mean we just finished. I say just finished, but it was 2 months ago. Shadow of the Sith. Still listening to it in my car. Some of the best writing I think I've ever read this year.
Yes.
But
Facts.
like I think you could technically like play along with stuff on Tatooine still, because we still have a good chunk of years to kind of go by during that time. But again, it goes all the way back to our previous conversations that we've always had. People don't want to stay in the Skywalker saga. Some do. Some still want to play in that sandbox. But we want something new. We want somebody other than a Skywalker. We want more than just Boba Fett. Like, Mandalorian is cool because he's a brand new character, but he feels fresh outside of everything else that's going on with the Skywalker stuff. Like, his story alone feels so different than the Skywalker saga. And it still is able to intertwine. And I find that very interesting. And we always know you can't usually put lightning in a bottle twice. But I mean, I guess you could always attempt to.
it'll be interesting to see for sure. I think they've got a very good map planned out because we've heard that Mandalorian season 4 is about to start filming. And you could say, well, we haven't seen season 3 yet, but we know that story is going to continue for a little bit. And really and truly, I just think Book of Boba Fett was there because Pedro Pascal was filming The Last of Us, and they needed a filler to help with filming Mandalorian season 3. They wanted to still have something there, but then because he was filming that, they needed to extend things out a little bit. I think that was the only reason it was there.
I think that makes sense. I mean, honestly, you could have just done the Ahsoka show. You could have.
Could have, if they'd started filming it earlier, or Acolyte, or Andor.
Well, Andor was already done. Andor was already done, so they could have technically. Well, no, hold on. I think a majority of Andor was already done by that
Right,
time.
but you could do what the CW did and just do the stupid little mid-season break and just put out the first 6 episodes. Or heck, everybody else has had less than 8 episodes or less.
You could have done season 1 and then like season 2, like 6 and 6.
Then season 3 for the rest of it. Like,
yeah.
Yes.
True. I don't know. Like,
I'm not complaining about getting Book of Boba Fett. I'm not.
Correct.
But
and for me, I will go ahead and also say that I don't need a Book of Boba Fett season 2. I will humbly accept a season 2 for content purposes, but I think they would work best as the what's the right wording for it? The supporting characters. For
supporting characters. Fennec Shand is great. I want Ming Na Wen and more things for Star Wars. I want things. I want Tamira Morrison in more things for Star Wars. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. So I don't think you limit them and go, oh, they're never coming back to Star Wars because now we're done with Book of Boba Fett. They're there. Heck, if you wanted to leave them on Tatooine just in case for future reference, they can still come into The Mandalorian as supporting cast when Din Djarin takes over Mando. I don't know. Something. I mean, exactly what Djarin was there for on Tatooine for Boba Fett. I think it works. So, yeah.
I think
that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. But you said that Mandalorian season 4 is rumored to start filming next month. What is all this about? Like, where was this coming from? And I think it's a little bit surprising. Now, I say a little bit surprising because as of now, this is the only time I believe that that the next season of a Disney Plus series has started before a season starts. I think.
I want to say they had started filming season 2 while season 1 was dropping.
While it was dropping, but never before it dropped.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And we have no confirmation on this. This is solely coming from Production Weekly, which is a regular production weekly release.
Like it's a subscription. Yeah, it's a subscription base for people who are in the career paths of production, whether it be in front of the camera, behind the camera, stuff like that.
Or
that's
people
where
who
most
want to
people
label these as scoops. Because they do. So so it's from Production Weekly, and it says it's supposed to start going into production early next month. And if you look at it, you go, okay, it's about the same time frame that Mandalorian season 3 was filming last year. It makes perfect sense for it to go ahead and do that if they want to guarantee a spring 2024 release. Because otherwise, if you just wait, then all of a sudden you're delaying yourself again and you can't put out regular content. And right now, because they're so confident in Mandalorian and everything, this is what we get. So
Now, again, not counting my chickens before they hatch, but do you think that they're doing this also for story purposes? Saying that maybe due to how they're telling the story with the Book of Boba Fett, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, do you think maybe that they're needing to film season 4 pretty rapidly to push this forward? Which is really odd because wasn't there like this huge rumor that there was only going to be 3 seasons of The Mandalorian?
yeah, but if you look at it and you go, okay, we're changing the title now or whatever, but still kind of keeping it Mandalorian. Because I think that was what they were going to do was like Mandalorian would be this part of it, and then this would be another part, still keeping the character around, but just kind of changing the base for the story.
Mhm.
So, I yeah, I mean, obviously we don't get really anything story wise until a couple months, if that, before production. Or I'm sorry, release. So we really don't know. I do think it's possible that they could just be throwing it into production under the Mandalorian title, because by the time they're done filming, if this is when they're filming, because it is production weekly, so but if by the time they're done with it, they're done filming in March, because it's about a 6-month production window, they could be already set and still not revealed the new direction for the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So could all work out just fine. And instead of having the secret title, that a lot of people used to go into production for new shows or new movies, you just go in under the old title and then you get to reveal the new title later on.
That's true. That's true. And again, you said this, you know, the new title is still like TBD or even still rumored. Like it's not like a for sure thing.
Yeah. Nobody, Jon Favreau and Filoni haven't like shown an architecture for the story plotline for the Mandalorian at all.
Yeah.
So everything's a rumor until you hear it from StarWars.com or an actual piece of media. So
Which is really weird just because like again, we use our source Star Wars News yet net for like everything. And even that is kind of iffy sometimes. So, I mean, still wonderful website, wonderful people who run it. People support them, check out their website. Really well developed, really cool. Um but it's really I feel like, we always make this joke in our GWA chat. I feel like now Star Wars has gone a long way from where it was last year, but Star Wars and DC were kind of in a race to, hey, who's the worst led and not really knowing where they were going. Um, Clearly that's DC for now. Um, I feel
but
like ever since,
I don't think Star Wars has ever really had a bad direction, because when they put out what they put out, it's enjoyed by most people. I
yes,
think they're just really bad at kind of publishing where they want everything to go and giving people details about that. I think
yeah,
that's most people's problem. I am so yeah.
we we're being we are too in the dark compared to with DC and Marvel. A lot of people feel like they know a lot of what's coming. I feel like Star Wars is very much in the dark for basically a year out. Like that's
Yeah.
basically, and even a year out is kind of vague. So you're like, we'll see what happens. But as far as
Absolutely.
any other news in the
Um
Mandalorian,
the only
the
other
Chris,
thing Yeah, Christopher
Yeah.
Lloyd. He was at the Fanboy Expo in Knoxville 2 Saturdays ago, and he was asked about what character he might be playing in The Mandalorian season 3. With that news dropping from the Hollywood Reporter in March that he would have an appearance, guest role, whatever you want to call it. And he was blunt about it, which I can appreciate, and said, "We were all sworn to secrecy." Dot dot dot. Well, obviously he didn't say dot dot dot, but we were all
The
sworn to
quote
secrecy.
has it.
So I don't know. Pause for dramatic effect. So yeah, that's all there is to that. Honestly, the last time I tried to predict what character someone was going to play was for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I think I failed pretty miserably there. So you can check out my fan casting for everyone on FullCircleCinema.com for Obi-Wan Kenobi when we got the cast list, which I still appreciated greatly that we got a cast list. Um,
I honestly could not even throw a name out with
I
where
would have
we
said,
are.
yeah, I would have said Rancor person, but then you have Danny Trejo. So, oh my gosh, did I fuck that up?
No, no, no.
Have I watched too much Predator things?
No, I will say this. I think.
Oh no, I got it right. Oh my gosh, right. Sorry. Okay, sorry.
So here's the two things that I have. For one, I'm gonna have to go on the same boat that Snell is always on. Christopher Lloyd may be too big of a face for Star Wars. So
Okay.
because of that, he may be a droid, which I would be okay with because one of my favorite actors was a droid for Star Wars, that being David Tennant. So I'm okay with that. But because he has a big name and a big face, I also think they wouldn't want him to be a droid. So I'm 50-50 here.
All I'm saying is in the last two movies I saw Christopher Lloyd in, it took me to the review of said movies to figure out that Christopher Lloyd was in there. And you
Really?
know what Christopher Lloyd looks like because of Back to the Future. That is his look. Absolutely 110%. Could not have told you that those were Christopher Lloyd in them.
What movies did you watch that were
Okay,
Christopher Lloyd movies
hang on. Okay. Christopher Lloyd. I didn't have it pulled up.
that were recent?
Film. Okay. So he was in The Tender Bar,
Didn't
and I
watch it.
did not realize that it was Christopher Lloyd in that.
Okay.
It took me a hot minute. Actually, the other one I saw him in was Nobody, and I did recognize him in that, but it was like a last minute notice. I was like, oh, that's Christopher Lloyd. That's cool. Good, he's still around, kind of thing. So
Which one was Nobody? What movie was
Nobody
it?
was it was a really good movie. Um it was with Bob Odenkirk,
Oh, yes,
um
yes,
the
yes.
government assassin for the three-letter agencies, according to
Yes.
Wikipedia.
Yes,
Wikipedia.
all I had to look was the poster and yeah. Okay. So that I did know Christopher Lloyd was in. The other one I did not know because I didn't see it.
Don't watch Tender Bar. It's not worth it.
No, I just think like even now it really saddened me, and I'm gonna go ahead and knock on wood. He is getting a lot older in age. I think he
Yep.
is rounding up to his mid 80s, if not his late 80s.
Um,
Or is he already in his 90s?
and then I can tell you, 83.
He's 83, so right there, close to his mid 80s.
He was in Cyber Chase. Sorry,
Cyber Chase. Did I ever see Cyber Chase?
it was
I
a
don't think.
PBS Kids series. It was all I was allowed to watch was PBS Kids and VeggieTales.
Oh, I know what Cyber Chase is. Didn't know he did a voice in Cyber Chase.
It was
But
for the hacker.
that's hilarious. Um, but again, knocking on wood, I want to enjoy him as much as possible. And him coming to one of my biggest fandoms, I think is going to be great.
Yeah.
But just like how Mark Hamill was just there to do like the sub in for the body and stuff for what would eventually be CGI Luke Skywalker, I also don't think they'll have Christopher Lloyd to do too much. So I think he
Yeah.
will be a one episode character or a one episode character that comes back at the last episode.
Yeah. I think it's going to end up very similar to Danny Trejo's appearance, where it's like you're in 2 scenes. That's it.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
um, next up on the news list, going back to Podathon, which we've already talked about Ryan Johnson making an appearance on Act 2 Radio for that. We have more guest announcements. So Christopher Sean, who has done several voices in Star Wars Resistance and a couple other pieces, but he was the main character in Resistance. And he is going to be joining Tatooine's Sons. Kristen Baver will be joining Tarkin's Top Shelf. Kelly Knox will be joining Kanata's Castle. Charles Soule is joining Broaxium, and that will be actually live at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that one will be live. Everybody else, so far, everybody else has been kind of like a pre-recorded thing. Gary Whitta will be joining Followers of the Forge live at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then there was just another announcement, if I can navigate Twitter properly. Uh, um, Matt Martin, who works very closely with the story group. I think his technical definition, oh, yeah, it's just, he's got it in his Twitter bio, but it's Lucasfilm Story Group. Um, so he will be joining Coffee with Kenobi for Podathon. So, and I don't see a live time on that one, but the whole schedule you can find at thepodathon.com for those of you who are interested. Very good opportunity for Make-A-Wish donations, and I know that they are getting close to announcing some of the raffle prizes, and that they also actually this year have a PR sponsor. So Otter PR is representing Podathon 2022 as the public relations and media partner. And they have a prize partner in Bandai Namco. So with they're a collectibles company. So yeah, that is latest on Podathon guests. They still have 5 guests to actually announce. So there's still a lot of cool things coming with that, and a lot of cool behind the scenes Star Wars stuff to come that day. So
Very, very cool for sure. Now, our next topic of news is something I'm sure Katie's going to be excited about, but also not really know too much about just because it is video games. But we're really excited. What we are planning has not been confirmed yet, so we're not going to announce it as of yet. But there is going to be a showcase with Disney and Marvel. I believe it is September 9th, about video
yes,
games. And they're going to be showcasing all these different things, but they did mention stuff with Lego Star Wars. And I, as well as a few others in and around the internet, all assume that this is going to be more DLC for the Skywalker saga. I really hope that For one, because I don't think they've ever done this, and I haven't played Lego Skywalker Saga in a while. I want to go back and double check some things. Why haven't they put the characters that are in the Star Wars Lego movies in the Lego games? And when I say that, I mean like this summer, because I still need to watch it, but this summer Lego Star Wars movie on Disney Plus, like Finn has like the Hawaiian shirt and everything. Like
Yeah,
that stuff I think would be kind of cool to have in the Skywalker saga just to kind of joke around and play around with. But
I imagine. Sorry,
no, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
imagine they're going. I imagine they're going to add that, and I think what this is going to be is like DLC for the other movies. Maybe even delving into like Clone Wars and Rebels. Um,
Ooh.
or I don't know if they'll go full animation, other than maybe like Bad Batch. But I imagine the reason they didn't, because when this was announced, or no, when this came out, there was two Lego movies already. But I imagine they wanted to just solely have the focus on the Skywalker saga, and are now branching out to include um like everything else. So I think they're gonna have like the exclusive characters. I will probably see Rogue One and Solo levels, I'll imagine. Um, and then maybe even diving into Mandalorian. I think I don't know if they'll go as far as Bad Batch, because I don't know if there I don't know if there's Bad Batch levels to put in this. Like
I think you could. I think you
you
could play
could,
around with because they go to familiar places. So I think that is where you're like not necessarily having to build whole new worlds. You're still kind of playing along with where we kind of already were throughout the Skywalker saga. So I think you can play with some things there, but I think you're right. I think they would need to add a whole lot more to do that. But if you're
yeah,
we have been around the Skywalker saga since the first Star Wars movie. So
yeah.
honestly, I I genuinely think the Skywalker saga, as far as the Lego game, can last us a long while. So honestly, just do Clone Wars. This is don't announce anything else. Just announce Clone Wars. That will get people hyped to eventually get Rebels, to eventually get, Mandalorian, to eventually get your Book of Boba Fett, to eventually get your Ahsoka. I
I'm
think this
just
is
so
the way that
sad.
you do that.
Like Skywalker Saga has been such a disappointment. And because like the open world was cool, but I really enjoyed going back and doing the levels and just the levels in free play. And it's just so boring. It's absolutely boring.
Well, and again, that's why these developers continue building this game. Maybe they are hearing people like us complain about these things and they're going to adapt it. They're going to make it better. That's the whole point.
And
These
I
new
don't know. I have no faith.
Well, the thing I will say this, Katie. Back in the day, you bought a game and that was it. You didn't get any updates. You didn't get anything. That was the
I
game that
know,
was made, and
but
then you buy it.
I
Nowadays,
know, but Lego Star Wars original trilogy was so much fun. And I can't tell you how many times I went back and replayed that game. And yes, I know. I am 26 years old and talking about Lego games. But y'all, that is all I play. I play Lego games and I play Mario games. That's it. Like, I just bought the DLC for Mario Kart 8. And Matt's like, well, you know Mario Kart 9 is supposed to be coming out soon. And I was like, I don't care. This is all I play.
I mean, for that statement, they've already planned on putting more and more DLC for like 8 different roadmaps or whatever, 8 installments for maps. So that's their fault, not your fault. As far as Legos, though, as far as just like in general, and especially with Lego Skywalker Saga, I genuinely think that this game can become pretty massive. And the only problem with that is that I definitely need to buy the game on my console because I feel like it might eventually get too big to be able to play on my Switch to fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because then like you have to deal with frame rates and everything else. The level has to completely load and things like that. And I feel like it's definitely not as big as a problem as it used to be. But because I have a PS5 now, I think that I should be playing it on that. Um, but I'm excited. I'm excited for this showcase. Of course, I'm a big gamer, especially when it comes to the Disney properties. They're also going to be showcasing Disney Dreamlight Valley, which is basically Sims but with Disney World. Um, Marvel Midnight Suns, as well as, like we said, the Lego Skywalker Saga. So pretty exciting. We have some things planned for that day, so just keep an ear out. We will make the announcement later, but looking really, really forward to it. Another part of our gaming is this article here that states Cameron Monaghan on Cal's moral compass journey in Star Wars Jedi Survivor. So I am looking into this. He says he is someone who lived through a genocide, a purging of people from his kind, and has been living in hiding for most of his life. To me, a survivor is someone who is able to persist in the face of extraordinary odds. And I think that's a lot of what our story is about. We see Cal challenged in ways that we haven't seen him challenged before, and it brings him to moments that are more difficult than anything that his character has faced. Without giving anything away, I think that leads to some very interesting questions for Cal, as well as just for this universe in general. So, this I feel like has a little bit of like the characters that we know have survived through Order 66. We saw just recently in Obi-Wan Kenobi, there was a fellow Jedi that was looking all over for Kenobi. And when he finally met him, he's like, "We should rise up. We should defeat the Sith and blah, 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 blah." And Obi-Wan was like, "I don't know who you are. Peace out. Obi-Wan Kenobi is dead. I don't know who you're talking about."
Please.
And he cost that guy his life. Like, kind of. And I'm sure Obi-Wan put a lot on his shoulders for that. But this kind of goes into the like just the way this quote and its vibe. I feel like it is more along the lines of like probably killing in the name of survival. And of course, that isn't the quote unquote Jedi way. So that is going to be a very interesting thing if that's the path that we're going to be seeing Cal Kestis in this new game. Um, have you watched the theatrical scenes yet, Katie? I'm gonna guess that's a
No.
no.
No,
I,
I haven't.
I
At some point, it's just gonna have to be an episode topic where we just do that and we just talk about that the whole episode.
I want to. I'm probably gonna find it for you and say, here you go. You know what? I'm gonna look up the schedule tonight and see where there's an opening, and then I'm gonna find a video. I'm gonna make you watch it, and then we'll talk about it. I
That's what
wouldn't like
that's what it has to be for me. I just have to have homework and then I just have to procrastinate and then eventually go,
because
"Oh shit, I was supposed to do this."
kind of like how we were supposed to read the book this past week. um, but
Yeah.
but honestly, I think I recently restarted the game, so I can force you to watch the videos while I replay the game, and boom, we'll be able to talk about it. So it'll be fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
So I think we'll plan it out, guys. We'll plan it out. Um,
We'll plan it out.
but I think you were going to like Cal as a character a lot. There is a lot of supporting characters in the game as well that I think you will learn to appreciate. And it's very interesting where they leave off, considering the timeline of where this is going to be taking place and where they could possibly go. Because for me, all of us were wondering, is Cal going to appear in Obi-Wan Kenobi? Is he going to appear in Mandalorian? Like, where is this character going to end up coming up at? And my fear is we're only going to see him in the video games.
I don't know, because I think there's a lot of potential for stuff moving forward. Which kind of leads into like the next kind of topic with Obi-Wan Kenobi, actually. So Ewan McGregor was at Fan Expo Boston this past weekend and talked about how the original pitch was about Obi-Wan and Luke, and as well as he talked about Liam Neeson's return as Qui-Gon Jinn. And he said that he was more than happy with the change to being about Obi-Wan and Leia. He said it was going to be a story about me and Luke. It was always going to be that, and that was one of the genius moments where everyone went, "Wait a minute," and then changed it. And so then, in talking about Liam Neeson coming back, he said, "Liam is a hero. When I was growing up and wanting to be an actor, I was always watching Liam Neeson's work, and he was involved in some beautiful work as a younger actor. And so to get the chance to work with him and have this great relationship that we got to create together is fantastic. And to get the chance to work with himself again on the series right at the end." So that was his comments there. It was really cool to see. Fuck. Okay. Bye, Star Wars Newsnet. That just crashed. Anyways, it was really cool. Y'all, I am so exhausted. I was on an airplane. It was exhausting. Yeah, I'm tired. So I'm sorry for all the energy because this is what happens when I'm tired. I thought it was really cool to see Liam Neeson back as Qui-Gon Jinn. I know that I wasn't like a huge fan of it, but looking back at like what we have canonically, there was really nothing that said he couldn't come back. I was just kind of lost between Legends and canon. So it was really cool to see him come back, and I'm sure Tales of the Jedi with him and his son voicing Qui-Gon Jinn is going to be great. Like, I'm really glad that he's involved instead of running his voice through that younger generator thing. So we'll see what happens.
I have a question. So I didn't really realize this was happening, of course, until Solo and The Last Jedi came out, in regards to each film or each show or whatever kind of teasing what to expect when we are moving forward. So with The Last Jedi, we saw Luke give the golden dice to Leia, and then the next movie we saw was Solo. Then in regards to The Mandalorian, we see Grogu use force healing. We see the same thing. They have a symbiotic relationship in regards to how each movie plays along with each other, or the franchises play along with each other within Star Wars. So technically, this is kind of playing along with the same thing, with Neeson coming up in Obi-Wan, and now his character being showcased in Tales of the Jedi.
But we're not getting Tales of the Jedi next. I see where you're going with this, but
true. The next thing we're getting is Andor. So, and there wasn't really much other than canonically, time-wise, Andor making sense here, right?
Yeah.
So maybe my
Obi-Wan
question
takes
is,
place relatively around the same time, which is where I'm hoping we get to see the path again. Like, I can't remember her name. Tala? It was Tala. Getting to see them again would be cool.
Yes, I think the inclusion of the path would be very, very cool. I think that within itself, make that a show, whether it be animation or live action.
Yeah.
The Path, Star Wars The Path, I think would be a really cool concept.
I think so too. And it like, and that's something where it's very easy to do like a cameo of the week sort of situation where you rescue Quentin Laws, you rescue Yaddle. I don't know, like just kind of going through all these characters and just expanding the mythology of Star Wars.
Yeah, I think that would be very, very
Um,
cool.
at Celebrity Fan Fest, um, he again commented on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this one is in terms of a second season, and he said, "I'm totally up for it, guys. I want to do it. I'm absolutely honest. There is no plan to make one yet, but I'm pretty sure they're just biding their time, but nobody's approached me as of yet." So basically, he's just like, "Yeah, I'd love to do another one. We'll see what happens." Again,
Same
like
thing
Ming Na
as
Wen.
yeah.
So,
I still feel the same as when we talked about it at the end of Kenobi. I think that there is still plenty of time from where he is now to where he's supposed to be in the very beginning of episode 4, and
mhm.
especially with him now going to be doing training with Qui-Gon Jinn.
Training with Qui-Gon Jinn. He also has kind of been introduced to Luke now, so you can kind of utilize Luke a little bit more. Still not much because we know Owen is like, oh yeah, crazy Obi-Wan, Ben Kenobi, no can do, like that kind of thing. So they don't have a big relationship, and Luke acts like he doesn't remember him in A New Hope, so you have to be careful with that. But I think, yeah, even like if it's just like a little training thing, just kind of explaining the mythology. Heck, you could have Obi-Wan force ghosting around while he sleeps on Tatooine with Qui-Gon on other planets. Again, you can make new shit all the time for force powers. Doesn't really matter. So,
Yeah, I think that there is a space and time that they can play around, excuse me, that they can play around with. And even talking about my the path pitch, you still have Moses Ingram that is still being able to
yep.
play around with that time as well. So if that means Obi-Wan gets involved with a little bit of the path, that would be kind of cool. Now that he knows what it is. Um, yeah, I think that a season 2 is not very far out of reach compared to how we were feeling with how this Obi-Wan Kenobi show was being pitched.
Hmm.
So our next piece of news goes along with we have some random uh news stories here. First one up is Dave Filoni feels responsible to preserve and continue George Lucas's philosophy, says Star Wars should make people feel happy. This also comes from the uh Vanity Fair article when Kathleen Kennedy was saying the exact same thing. Do people feel happy? Does Star Wars make people happy? Um, and Dave Filoni says here, uh, Filoni started by saying how the entire lineup of Star Wars shows for Disney Plus is so different in tone, and how it speaks volumes to how malleable the Star Wars franchise is, while its core values are still kept intact. He says, we love seeing the development of all these series, from the new shows we are doing with John Watts, Skeleton Crew. But when you look at Andor, you look at Obi-Wan, and you look at Mando, you look at Boba, they all have a different feeling and a different tone. And I think that's remarkable. And it really speaks to the serialized nature of Star Wars and how it can be very flexible galaxy. I mean, it's a galaxy. So there are so many stories to tell, and it's exciting for that. There is so many stories to tell then leave the Skywalker saga. I'm going to continue to say
Yep.
it. I'm going to continue to say it. But he also says right here, Favreau also weighed in to lay out the model that they are applying to the shows that they are working on. As we saw in the later episodes of the Book of Boba Fett, there is a very good chance for interconnectivity between these series as they all exist inside the same time frame. Favreau goes on to say, all the all the shows we've worked on, whether it be The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, and The Skeleton Crew, they all exist within the same time frame. They all exist after the Return of the Jedi. So I guess you would say between episode 6 and episode 7. There's 30 years there that's somewhat unexplored, certainly on the screen. To some extent, it's been explored through fiction and through extended universe stuff. So there's a lot of room for us to tell stories, and there's a lot of characters that are in play because we know who's around all the time. In The Mandalorian, we begin to introduce those characters. We begin to remind people who knew them already, or if you aren't familiar with the other work and you are just coming in through this show, we're introducing them for the first time. And this affords us the opportunity to have stories that interconnect and characters that go from one story to the other. And that creates a very rich fabric for us to explore. Now, I did not like part of this quote right here, where it says, to some extent, it has been explored through fiction and through extended universe stuff. Uh, Favreau, this is all fiction. So, what the hell are you talking about? Are you saying that books are not canonically like valid to your Mando verse of the Star Wars franchise? Because they are
Yeah.
in that window. If they extend any further, if they meet at the point of Shadow of the Sith, are they going to act like that's not canon?
I hope not. I don't think I don't think the story group would allow the I think they're being very picky about what books are coming out in that era to prevent interaction. I think that's why
Okay.
Adam Christopher's novel was canceled.
Oh, okay. I just like I it's very hard for me to think that, and again, it's very hard for me to think because we have not seen Star Wars do this before as far as continuously going on to doing something. But if Mando, Ahsoka, and Boba Fett and Andor or whatever, the Skeleton Crew, if these shows are evolving into the equivalent of what the MCU was on the big screen for Disney Plus, and we're getting like 10 years of actual canon Star Wars stuff, we'll eventually
Yeah.
hit that mark where we may be seeing baby Ray, like, and Datham and Miramir and stuff. And like, I would hope that they would use some of these canonical novels as either inspiration and or a roadmap for something else.
Um yeah, I think I think you're right. However, I think we haven't hit that point yet. And like I think the whole point of the reboot for Star Wars when Disney bought it was to A, have their own material, but also to not have to adapt a current book that was out already. Because they didn't want to have to deal with that. So, I mean, there's years of exploration that can happen with Star Wars. It's a universe. So we can have a lot of good opportunities. I just I want there to be I don't want them to have to retread a novel. I think it's enough that we get novelizations of movies.
True, but and I can't remember what your initial thoughts were on this, but we know that Disney Plus is making an original movie for Star Wars based off of one of the Star Wars novels, correct?
Loose adaptation supposedly on Heir to the Empire. Yes.
No, no, no,
That
not Heir
was
to the
I think
not Heir, no, no, not Heir to the Empire. It was oh shoot, what was her name? Um I remember the cover of the book, but I don't remember the title of the book.
Rogue Squadron.
No, not Rogue Squadron. Uh, it was oh shoot. Uh, shoot. Star Wars. This is gonna be very vague for me to just go through the Star Wars category on Audible to see this cover. I don't think it was Beth's book. It may have been. Like it
Rebel
was
Rising.
no, not Rebel Rising.
Princess and the
All
Scoundrel.
no, all I remember the cover has a starfighter on it. Shoot, what was this title? And I think even Snell was kind of excited for the fact that
Lost
like
Stars.
yes. Wasn't there news that they were going to adapt that into an original movie on Disney Plus?
It was like an e-scooper. There has been nothing for that yet.
There hasn't been much, but that's what I mean. There's been rumors that this was going to become a thing. So even if let's just play along with that.
Lost Stars is one of the most popular books for Star Wars. So I wouldn't blame them necessarily for doing that. It's also very much like a romance. It's a Romeo and Juliet for Star Wars almost.
Okay.
Um so it could play very well because basically it takes place to from right before A New Hope to the Battle of Jakku, which takes place in Alphabet Squadron 3. So you could go either way with it. That it is so good though. I like they would seriously have to bring on the author to help with the script development. Um, because Claudia Gray did an incredible job with that. That is still her best Star Wars novel to date. For me. So
Nice. I think that you cuz for one, if they were to just skip over, let's say that they have all the way up until Shadow of the Sith. I would be okay with them completely skipping Shadow of the Sith as far as live action, as long as they would acknowledge like maybe
that
one
it's
or two
there.
that it's there. Exactly. Like if you have Lando or Luke say something about the like one or two of the events that happened in Shadow of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just for
Yeah,
us as readers to be like, "Oh, okay, they're treating this as something that legitimately happened. It makes sense. We can move forward." And we're doing that
yeah,
now, but it's always nice for just that confirmation, you know?
yeah. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of see what happens. I guess like I don't want to think about 10 years down the road because Star Wars has to get to that point.
Yes, very much so. Uh
um, yeah, but for me, this conversation, and it was an interview by Entertainment Weekly. Um, I'm not thrilled with it. I just wish that they do better acknowledging that they're not the only two in the galaxy who do Star Wars related things. So
yes.
yeah, that's
The
my opinion. That's my nice opinion.
They also just go forward with like teasing some things with Mandalorian season 3, um and how the Book of Boba Fett ended and where that leaves Mando and everything else. Nothing super important there, just because I mean we're around the corner to Mando 3 eventually, like pretty soon, next year or spring of next year. I want to
Six
try to
months.
keep I want to try to keep as like, of course, with us being a podcast, we're gonna report on news, but as little as possible for me, because I didn't join this show until after Mandalorian season 2. Well,
Yep.
yeah, it was after Mandalorian season 2, and I think like, that's kind of like the precious one that I kind of want to keep sacred and be like, okay, you're gonna keep all the secrets in there. I'm gonna watch you and I'm gonna be surprised, but I probably won't. So we'll just see how that goes. Our other news topic for our miscellaneous category is this nice little surprise we got from Charles Soule in comics, being
Yes.
Star Wars: The Hidden Empire. So, Katie, why don't you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, so we knew this was coming. This was Soul's plan all along was to do basically a Kira focused trilogy. And if you have not read Crimson Reign, you definitely should because it was great. And it really kind of just adds a lot of depth into Kira as a character. I have been too busy to read the tie-ins other than Star Wars, the official Star Wars run. So I'm behind on Afra, Bounty Hunters, and actually no, I'm not behind on Darth Vader. So I'm behind on two of the four tie-ins. Um, but Hidden Empire, Soul says, is the end game for Kira's story, at least this phase of it. She emerged from years of hiding with an elaborate, incredible plan to bring down the Sith, and Hidden Empire is the endgame. It brings in players from all over the Star Wars universe, from Darth Vader to Dr. Aphra to the Knights of Ren, and I think it'll be really satisfying. But tragic. As I had a character say in the very first issue of Crimson Reign, Kira's story is a tragedy, but in a good way. So, and they have an incredible cover by Paulo C. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. Fuck. Kira. With Kira holding her electricized sabers, as well as like the Hidden Empire logo, because it is different from Crimson Dawn's logo, and decked out. And then there is also a variant cover by Declan Shalvey, which shows a battle where Kira is deflecting the Sith lightning back at the Emperor, and then it has the Emperor and Kira below it. So, um, Soul says no matter the fate of Kira, her reintroduction was worth it. This whole storyline's been a gift, honestly. It's given me a chance to write some deeply resonant stories that connect with the particular moment in the Star Wars timeline in which they are set, as well as prominent characters across the galaxy. It's been a very rich experience for me as a writer, and I'll be sad to say goodbye to Crimson Dawn, Kira, and the rest of this corner of Star Wars once I'm done. This kind of story doesn't come around that often, and I'm glad I've been able to build it alongside Stephen Cummings, Luke Ross, and other amazing writers and artists working in Star Wars right now. I think the fans are in for a treat. Um, the first issue will be coming out in November. Um, and it looks like Darth Vader, Dr. Aphra, and bounty hunters will all be taking part of the new arc as well. So they're going to start it off, and then Hidden Empire will come in, kind of in the middle of all of theirs. So gives you some time to kind of catch up on the single issues, but very very impressed, and I'm really glad to see where Kira will go with this. I hope she stays alive because I think she's been a great character to have, and I think Amelia Clark should come back at some point.
I think that Amelia Clark should come back. But I don't know what this means for Akira, considering the quote from Soul meaning saying that she has a a tragic story, possibly a tragic ending. So like I don't know if it means that she's going to die, because it says here, the quote you read, says, is the end game. It brings, where does it say? Uh, and I think it'll be really satisfying but tragic. I also had a character saying in the very first issue of Crimson, Kira's story is a tragedy, but in a good way. Well, in a good way might hint at the fact that her possible character will survive, but you never know. We haven't seen her or heard of
Yeah.
her, you know, s- since Solo. So who knows? Uh, I'm really excited about this. I still need to read issue 5 of uh, Crimson Dawn. I am almost caught up. I have been slacking a lot when it comes to reading comics lately, but I'm hoping to fix that this weekend. Next up on our list right here is, let me just refresh, Star Wars The Essential Legends Collection, 6 wave of books, including Dawn of the Jedi and Republic Commando. I'm super
Right.
excited about this because Republic Commando was a game that I've never had the opportunity to play, but I've always wanted to. And I didn't even know that there was a book for Republic Commando, and I'm really excited to read it.
Fun fact, that's actually the next wave of books that I'm going to be talking about for my Patreon. Legendary Conversations. So,
There you go, shameless plug.
shameless plug.
It's it says here, let's see, fans have noticed once again discovered a new series set of books that will be released as part of the Essential Legends collection, arriving of Wave 4. It says here, release date for Wave 6 is April 25th, 2023. These books are reprints of the stories of Legends continuity, of course, with new art. Let's see here. See if there's anything else that it says. Disney officially confirmed that they would only consider the first 6 movies of the Skywalker saga alongside the Clone
It's just
Wars.
all the
Yeah, just the mumbo jumbo about continuity and whatnot.
and the mumbo
But
jumbo for SEO to get them to 300 words.
yes, but it
Um,
also, if you guys go to Star Wars Newsnet, this article here, the one talking about the 6th wave, actually at the very bottom has uh, the actual, not release, like not the waves, but it does have like the Thrawn trilogy, shows all 3 books, the Bane trilogy, which my 3rd book finally came in from Unknown Comics, so I have it right there. The X-Wing series, the Old Republic series, as well as the miscellaneous series. Um, and is there only going to be 6 waves, or is that what they've come up with so far?
I think that's what they've come up with so far, and because Wave 5 is supposed to be coming out, I think it's November, so the spacing kind of makes sense, especially with the holidays, um, and like printing and everything. You want to make sure that you're timing everything correctly. Um, I am kind of surprised that they aren't going ahead and starting the Wraith Squadron series, because the X-Wing series they published so far, Rogue Squadron, Wedge's Gamble, the Krytos Trap, and the Back to War. All 4 of those have been labeled on the books as Rogue Squadron series. And the next book actually in the X-Wing series is entitled Wraith Squadron. And from there they kind of alternate between Wraith Squadron and Rogue Squadron. At least from my vague remembrance. So I'm surprised that they aren't starting with Wraith Squadron. And honestly, the only one I've read from Wave 6 is Dawn of the Jedi Into the Void, which was a very good book. It details the start of the Jedi Order, and is actually really impressive by Tim Levin. There is a full comic run attached to it, so you can check that out as well. It's just got various tie-ins, but there's no lightsabers in it. It's actually just full metal swords that they all kind of swing about. So it's early ages of the Jedi. Clay's looking at me with like a shocked face. Uh, yeah. So I definitely, if that's something that you're interested in, I would check that out. Um, Republic Commando, I'll be reviewing those for Legendary Conversations next. So I'm getting into Hard Contact right now. Um, and so we'll just kind of see what happens with that. But Karen Travis, she wrote some really good books in the latter half of Legends, I think. Um, yeah, so she worked on oh, that's where I know her. She wrote Clone Wars, the Clone Wars novelization, as well as No Prisoners, which is in Legendary Conversations episode 3, which will be up on Patreon this weekend. Because I'm just too slack to go publish it now. And then she wrote in Legacy of the Force, she wrote the book. She wrote the book that killed Mara Jade. So
Oh no.
yeah, I know. But I've heard very good things about Dark Rendezvous, Yoda Dark Rendezvous. So very excited to get to that, and that's coming up shortly on my list. So it's still interested to see why they didn't necessarily follow through with doing the X-Wing series, especially considering that's a very popular series. So, anyways,
Our
next up,
yeah.
High Republic Phase 1, uh, the young adult books are getting a paperback box set. And that is due to come out April 4th, 2023, and is currently listed for $33 on the Amazon Overlords page. It
This is not a bad price. And
is
now
not.
I want to know if they're going to change the covers up at all because
They are. They're supposed to be getting exclusive coverage in this box
damn
set.
it, then I'm probably going to get it. I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to get it. Um I like the look at box sets. I don't know why. Just because even if I can display them a little bit, I will display the box instead of the actual books. Uh but yeah, we've
So I actually got the box set for the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and in trying to get it out to look at the covers because I was like, okay, it's a box set. The covers are going to be good. They're not going to be like hanging off the page or anything because it's a box set. And I ripped the box because it was so tight getting the box
no.
off. So, and I was like, there's no way I'm putting that on my shelf now. So they're all on my shelf out of the box, but I will
That
probably end up
sucks.
getting this too, just because the young adult books still have been very good. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I like if we're not going to promote bad spending habits, so if you can afford it, I always recommend box sets. They look pretty. They always come in a presentable manner. So I will probably get these. And if anything, I can keep the young adult novels for my child when she is old enough, or I can just sell them to half price books or something like that. Uh, the next topic though is something that I'm very excited about, just because it is
Yes.
in our realm of comics and everything else, but also kind of goes into the conversation that we were having with Dave Filoni and Favreau. Marvel Star Wars Revelations will point toward the future of a galaxy far, far away in comics. They specifically say in comics. Um, so this is going to be a new series coming out from Marvel. Uh,
It is okay, it's a one shot. It's not a series.
it's not a series. Oh, okay. So I
It
thought
is
it
a
was going to be a
40-page
series.
one shot. 40-page
Ooh.
one shots that will follow um that will follow Darth Vader as he searches where okay, that was here. Where is it? Oh, okay, here it is. It is written by Mark Guggenheim, who is currently writing the series Han Solo and Chewbacca, and it's illustrated by Salvador Larroca. So he's making his return to Star Wars comics. Paco Medina, and more. The tale specifically finds Darth Vader seeking out the Eye of Webbish Bog on Mustafar, a mysterious creature strong with the Force, and a tale that will tease the direction for Marvel's various Star Wars series. Uh, Guggenheim said, now we all know that the Force can be used to glimpse the present, past, and possible futures. Well, the Eye is going to show Vader all of the above, including moments that will be coming into play in 2023 all across the Star Wars line. It's our clever way of giving readers a preview of what everyone has up their sleeves for next year, but this isn't a 40-page movie trailer. It is a real Star Wars story with Vader at the center. And the cover for this is just absolutely spectacular by Phil Noto. You've
So
got Han Solo and Chewbacca, Vader and Sabe, and then you have the bounty hunters in the lower right corner, Dr. Aphra in the lower left, and then you have Luke and Leia in the center of them all.
So I will be completely honest. When I saw this first, because you put it in our Star Wars chat before you gave me the link here for the show, I assumed that it was going to be almost like how we read issue 25 and there being a post Rise of Skywalker. So when I saw the
Yeah.
title, The Future of Star Wars, it just means the future of Star Wars where they're at currently. So I'm a little disappointed
Yes.
in that, but I I'm always excited to read these books. So if it shows, hey, we have a plan, we're moving forward through this. And of course, they did the New Hope all the way into Empire Strikes Back, and they're currently on Empire Strikes Back all the way into Return of the Jedi. So
Yep.
they have a vague roadmap. Now it looks like they're going to have a more solidified roadmap and planning to where they're going to how they're going to get to the point of Return of the Jedi, which is
Yep.
always good. I can enjoy this, although, like I said, a little disappointed by my wrong interpretation of that clickbait title. Um, but yeah, really, still excited about it.
Yeah, Guggenheim says he can't wait for Revelations to hit comic shops. I'm having an absolute blast writing Han Solo and Chewbacca, as well as 3 issues in the upcoming Yoda series, which I did not realize he was writing. I thought that was only a Kevin Scott project, so it looks like people are going to be sharing because I know it was 3 volumes of 3 issues each, so maybe they're all writing one volume. I don't know. Still haven't heard any recent news on that project other than this because the
Yeah,
first issue
no.
is supposed to be coming in October.
Mhm.
So we'll see. Um, he said, but this is my first go at writing Star Wars proper. Luke, Leia, Vader, you name them. Quite frankly, it's hard to put into words just how exciting that is for me, and to be able to do it with a story that is designed to get readers excited for what's coming up, well, that's just the icing on the cake. If I do my job right, I'll be telling a compelling Star Wars story while simultaneously planting some very big flags for what readers can expect in 2023. And that is supposed to be coming in November, I want to say. It does not actually have the release date in the article, but anyways, I
That
think
that makes
I think from
sense.
everything I saw, it was November.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just because usually we will probably get a better look at that in the August solicitations at the end of every month. If people don't know, at the end of every month, Marvel, DC, all your indie titles, they have a solicitations printout, whether it be in a magazine or, of course, online, and it'll tell you 2 months in advance what books are coming out. So this month we will see what is coming out in October or the beginning of November. So that does make sense if we're seeing it closer to the beginning of November.
Okay.
The next topic that we are going to be covering is we have a few bullet points on Acolyte. So the first one comes from the Acolyte News on Twitter. It says, rumor. Insiders believe that the Acolyte will feature the planet Scipio, I believe
Scipio.
is. Yes, Scipio, the home world of the Moon MUUN or Mun species. Supposed concept art depicts a snowy, mountainous planet with large metallic cities akin to the uh, below image, and they use an image from Clone Wars season 6, episode 5. So, should I know who the moon species are?
So the moon species is basically the banking clan. They run most of the money between Coruscant and everything else really. Um, so they work closely with like the Trade Federation, but also with like loans and everything. So you can see in season 6 they were working on loans. One of the senators that they were worried about being a traitor has been offered to like take the title of the
Yes,
head of the
yes, I
banking
remember
clan.
that episode. Yes.
So um, what's interesting here is that Darth Plagueis is actually a moon in Legends. Now we don't know which species he's supposed to be in canon, but it could be very promising that this is the direction that they're taking. However, just as a clarification, Darth Plagueis was actually from Megiddo, but this being the moon homeworld is promising. Um, for that endeavor and kind of leads into the idea of okay, we're playing with um, Plagueis, potentially Palpatine, and everything. So um, it kind of leads into, and all of these are coming from um, a leaker who has actually apparently shared the entire plot of Tales of the Jedi. If you want to go look for that, I don't necessarily want to, but they're Ahsoka's, so take it with a grain of salt that it's a leaker. But they also provided some details on the Sith Lord that is codenamed Paul, who will feature in the live action series Star Wars The Acolyte. And according to the Twitter user, Paul is a white human male who sports gray or white hair and is around 50s in age. Paul doesn't fit the bill of the typical Sith Lord. He's supposedly extremely rich, effortlessly fancy, and is supposedly an arms dealer by profession. Supposedly, in an early episode of the series, Paul actually supplies Aura's village, who is the lead. That's the lead's code name, which is played by Amanda Stenberg. So Paul supposedly supplies Aura's village with weapons in preparation for another attack. Before those aliens attacking the village were fought off by the Jedi. So that is all I'm going to read because that is a very big plot leak, and I did not realize how large that plot leak actually was. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I
Um,
was I was grazing it and I was like, I don't know how far we're gonna go into
yeah,
this.
y'all know us. We're not typically plot leakers. We like non-spoiler things. But
And
yes,
also
so that's the
because
description.
it's a leak, always take everything with a grain of salt. That's one of the biggest
Yes.
things that it comes because with everything that has come out with the MCU and the Disney Plus shows, things didn't immediately turn out the exact same way that some leakers said. People get angry. We know that Star Wars fans can ride these rumors to the bank and get disappointed. So again, just take everything you see with a grain of salt. Um, there was another tweet by Acolyte News that said the Lucasfilm team came to me. This is, of course, a quote from Amanda Sandberg saying, came to me with this project, which was fully conceptualized with me in mind, and I was astounded. So I find this very interesting. Um, just because there hasn't really been in Star Wars, because I know that there has been this in like been using the example of the MCU. This has happened in the MCU before, but never necessarily with Star Wars. I don't believe. Um, Katie, do you know of any
Pedro
Star Wars?
Pascal.
Oh, that's true. That's true with the Mandalorian. With the Mandalorian, that's right. So
Filoni went to him and said, I want you to be in my Star Wars show. And he saw all the concept image and everybody was like, you want me to be that droid? You want me to be that? And he's like, no, I want you to be that guy, and pointed to the Mandalorian. And y'all, that is how you can never ever tell me that Grace Randolph is not a lying, two-faced bitch because she says he doesn't care about the show. The dude literally broke out in tears, crying, repeating that story at Star Wars Celebration. Cannot convince me that that man does not love Star Wars.
I'm I'm really excited for this. I've said it from the very beginning. With Acolyte kind of exploring a area of Star Wars that isn't really known that well to the general audience. Um, I think this is an opportunity to go all out and have fun with this. And from what we've been seeing and hearing, especially with these grain of salt plot leaks, I think that this can be a really big hit. Um,
I think so as well.
I I just got this stupid image in my head of the Smallville poster that everybody was going crazy about, just because, like, this is supposed to be about the Sith. They're
Bad Lex
bad.
and good sex or whatever.
Yeah. I was gonna say, the Sith are bad. They could really get into the marketing and stuff, and that immediately it made me think of that poster. Oh man, but I'm really hoping big things from this show. Again, I am going to set my expectations, but I am still excited for it. It for the Acolyte. The next, let's see here,
Andor.
we do have some news on Andor. So where do you want to start with this?
All right. So first things first. Adria Arjona's character, who is the female lead of the show, is apparently called Bix Colleen, according to journalists who are working on the Andor press tour. So that's her character's name, kind of revealed. Um, Next thing, kind of, so apparently, Tony Gilroy has stated that the Andor main theme will have different variations between the episodes. Um, and confirmed that Nicholas Britell will be composing the music for the show and wrote the theme. So Gilroy explained how integral the music is to Star Wars and how that carried over to Andor in new and unexpected ways. Music in Star Wars is just absolutely essentially identified with John Williams. I mean, bow down, but we're going in a whole other direction. We needed an entirely new vocabulary. We're making a new visual vocabulary, a storytelling vocabulary, a new casting vocabulary. I don't know why you have to redefine all these things, just saying. Nick Britell, he said, we're going to make a new musical vocabulary. Nick Brittle was not only available, but interested. Nick is just one of the premier composers of the moment right now. He's just on fire and he's inspired. Brittle had already been kind of talked about. Um, And Gilroy stated, one day I went to Nick's house and he played us his theme. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's our theme. I called Kathy Kennedy to say, we have a theme. None of the opening sequences are the same, and each variation is a different orchestration, a completely different interpretation of a theme that Nick has done. There'll be 12 of them in the show. I'm sure people will parse them and figure them out, what he's done. I think they're just absolutely beautiful.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, I'm interested to kind of see how it works. Mandalorian has played with music consistently. Obviously, John Williams has done incredible work for Star Wars. And it's kind of, I feel like it's almost like Only Murders in the Building, where they've kind of changed up the intro, it looks like, every episode. Um, And so I feel like it could be something very similar, like hints to the overall plot line and whatnot. So
You've seen the new episode this week, right?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
How,
No.
how did they do it? Anyway.
So so I after the show, I will talk to you about the big bomb that was dropped at the end of the episode. But
Post
I
credit
thought
discussion. We can copy Marvel Alliance.
yes, we can. But we'll do that later. The next part of Andor's news, which I'm really excited about, Tony Gilroy has says that Andor has the same aesthetic as the Bourne films. Of course, this is an interview coming from Total Films. Gilroy says, "I had been trying to get people to make an uh, acoustic action movie because action movies had gotten so bombastic in the 80s. They were just enormous. So when Bourne came along, we went way down to nothing. It was about making it real, keeping someone you really understand and you really care about in a place that you understand the geography of, the stakes is so much more involving than a guy on a train with 15 machine guns and a helicopter coming down. The aesthetic, that idea does carry over to Andor because we are on the ground with these people so that everything that we do has an intimacy and an acoustic nature to within the grandeur of Star Wars. So I do like this because I think it was I can't remember if it was either Chris or Brent talking about it on one of their post credit scenes or if it was Snell talking about it on Travis Told You So or Travis Told You. Um talking about how this really does give a spy aesthetic to it. Like it's not just your general Star Wars show or general Star Wars movie. This is it does feel different. It goes back to what Dave Filoni was talking about of how each of these shows has a different tone. And
Yeah.
with this, I really love spy movies. They're just it's something about it. Like even what was the one that it was okay. I didn't think it was the greatest movie ever, but like Valkyrie with Tom Cruise. Like I really enjoyed that movie as well. And the the Bourne idea, the hey, I have to like it's all about survival with the Bourne movies. And the mystery behind it as well. We know what the plot of Star Wars is.
Yeah.
From this point, we know Andor is the birth of the rebellion, basically.
Yeah.
I hope, and that's why I was so excited at the viewing of the trailer that we did 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I hope that there is enough twists and turns in this show to really keep us on our feet, to really be like actually shocked at
Yeah.
possible like traitor scenarios and things like that. I really do hope so. There's also a quote here. Um, I think this is also well, no, this comes from Gilroy as well, saying it's an adventure story. It's one. It's it's one man's odyssey through the center of the story, and then all of these peripheral characters surrounding him and spinning around. I mean, God, it's looking to be entertaining. It's heavy material. Heavy things are happening but is an adventurous story. And it very much looked like that in the trailers. It
Yeah.
looked like it's going to be a crazy ride.
100%.
Now,
100%.
did you say did you already talk about Adria Ajorna's
Yes.
character? Okay. So we are past that. We are moving on to our final topic of the night being Ahsoka.
We had one more thing about Andor.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Um, it basically for the SFX magazine, Gilroy, O'Reilly, Go, and Solar did an interview. Um, and have basically said the show is about ordinary people who ultimately the show is about people that form the rebellion, excuse me, and not about the battles themselves, though there will probably be plenty of them. And he's got this 5-year period to deal with. It's a pretty kinetic moment in history with the Empire taking over, but you also have these spores of revolution all over the galaxy. Nobody knows each other. There's different factions, and it's all going to coalesce awkwardly and clumsily at Yavin. He said, the first 3 episodes will be mainly focused on one story before we start branching out. He said, we're dealing with, 190 speaking parts in the first 12 episodes, and you're carrying over 25 to 30 characters that we care about from the first half to the second half. The first 3 episodes are pretty contained in our show, so it's pretty much about this one place and this one couple of days. And then when episode 4 starts, we just start adding characters and the world gets really, really wide. So that makes sense why they're dropping 3 episodes, just to kind of get you through the introduction.
Yeah.
And he said the Andor writing team was in constant communication with Lucasfilm creative executive Pablo Hidalgo. Within Star Wars, within Wikipedia, there's got to be 4 or 5 levels of canon. There's film canon, cartoon canon, fan fiction canon, and all these different things. And I'm so mad that they couldn't just say written canon. You put fan fiction canon above written canon?
This is what I mean.
We don't get it. We don't get it.
The way they said it before with Filoni and Favreau had me worried. So it triggered me a little bit.
Well, I'm trying to think. Really, the only thing I think they would need to worry about is like Rebel Rising, for any Jyn Erso related things, and then Princess Leia, if they decide to feature Princess Leia in any of this. And he said, and for the larger issues we deal with, Star Wars lore advising. Yes, that is Pablo Hidalgo's official job title. So yeah. They talked about the production designer, and how they didn't use green screens at all in the show. That it was all practical and the props were real. And it was thanks to production designer Luke Hull, who did Chernobyl. And he talked about how everything around you is so real. Switches and dials are all so funky and great, and George Lucas baked that in from the start. We're taking that funk and baking it into every department, to every part of the storytelling. And there's a lot more to that interview, but we're kind of getting a little long, y'all. So make sure you go check it out on Star Wars News Net. It is in their Andor section. So.
Yes, indeed. Now on to Ahsoka. The first article we have here is Prey actor Dane DeLigro. He is the one who played the Predator. I just watched that this weekend. Holy shit, people. If you haven't seen Prey, you need to see it now. I will even say press pause on this podcast. Go watch that movie now. It is the most metal thing I have seen in a very long time. It was so good. And I 100% agree with everybody saying it's the best Predator movie. It is 100% the best Predator movie. He is currently filming for a Lucasfilm project. It says here, this is coming from IndieWire, him doing an interview saying, I worked on a Marvel picture that just wrapped a few months ago, and I am currently shooting a Lucasfilm production. They're not always huge title roles like The Predator, but to be involved in things under those umbrellas is an honor, and it gives me a tremendous sense of pride. Currently, as we know, Lucasfilm is shooting 2 live-action series, that being Ahsoka and the Skeleton Crew. Rumors also point out that Acolyte doing some filming in the UK in the Volume at the moment, before moving outdoors later this year, though no official confirmation of that yet. So we put this under the Ahsoka umbrella, but it really could, because we don't have anything on the skeleton key, or the skeleton crew. Um, so it could be skeleton crew, but with Ahsoka deep in filming now, I think it makes sense to just kind of throw him in there, you know?
And especially if you end up featuring Zeb, with his height being 6'9". He's not quite tall enough to be a Wookiee, but he could definitely um fit the mold for Zeb, essentially.
Yeah. I want to see Zeb in live action. I think it would be so freaking cool. Um, but he says, well, it says here, in other news, praise actor Dakota Beavers expressed the interest over the weekend in possibly joining the Star Wars galaxy someday. When asked by Murphy's Multiverse, he says, I would be on cloud nine to play something like that, like a Jedi or Star Wars bounty hunter. I would be all over that. And this was just coming from the red carpet of Prey. In other articles we have from Star Wars News, that I've kept these freaking tabs open so long I have to refresh them all. Um, Rosario Dawson teases Thrawn's involvement in Ahsoka, says Filoni had a visceral reaction to an episode's rough cut. So it says here, Rosario Dawson claims that Ahsoka showrunner Dave Filoni has seen an early cut of his live-action spinoff and has spoken high praises of the project as it's coming together so far. Dawson was a special guest at Chicago Comic-Con and Entertainment Expo as part of a panel dedicated to her career, briefly uh, careening into her work with Rent, her involvement in Marvel Defenders, and of course that going on to Disney Plus and whatnot. Uh, and it has a clip here coming from laughingplaces.com on Twitter.
Yeah, this
Having
was when
the
she was there for C2E2.
Oh, okay, yeah, go just talking about how the reaction that Dave had when watching the episode. Um and it looks like she is also being at C2E2, says Rosario talks lightsaber training, why she wanted to come to C2E2, and meeting Carrie Fisher. Just talking again, like the article says, about her career. Um, Talking some moments about getting to film with Luke Skywalker, quote unquote. So just all really cool stuff. Uh, I'm trying to see where. Oh, it says right here. Lastly, she was asked whereabouts the Grand Admiral Thrawn. Dawson playfully noted that answering that question is a key, big kind of giveaway for where the plot of her series is headed, indicating that fan speculation is on the right track. So, oh man, I just want Ezra. Like, I just want him back. I want to see, like, it's I'm trying to think if there is ever something like Ezra's story in any other fandom that I've been a part of that, oh, you know what? For Ezra is kind of like how, for those of you DC Comics fans, Wally West in the DC universe at one point completely disappeared and then came back in Rebirth. And it was very awesome. It was very cool. Everybody loved it when he came back. I think that will be the moment. I may cry when I see Ezra for the first time on live action. Just putting it out there. Um, yeah, I just really need to see it.
I do too, and I think like something we forgot to mention, which I think will be a good kind of conversation for later on. But somebody on Twitter brought up like you could have Ezra's message play, especially in Andor season 2, like at the very end. Could be a very good move for them to just kind of draw that connective tissue, especially with the Ahsoka show moving forward. So, um, yeah, I'm excited for Ahsoka. I wish it didn't have as much news around the production, but I still think I'm excited.
So from what we were told about Andor season 1 takes place across how long of a time? 1 year, right?
Yes. Andor season 1 is 1 year. Andor season 2 is 4 years.
Okay. I'm going to have to look back at the timeline to see where exactly Ezra would have disappeared, considering where his message like out into the galaxy is. And then how long has it been considering when he left and where this Ahsoka series is going to be taking place? Do you know off the top of your head?
From what we think, it's 9 years.
Okay.
Because
God,
it because Mandalorian is 9 years post Return of the Jedi. So
okay.
9 to 12 years.
Yeah. That's just crazy to think about. 9 years completely gone. And you were with Grand Admiral Thrawn, and we have no freaking idea where he is. Still blows
Yep.
my freaking mind.
Yep.
Next up, right here. Dave Filoni has a story idea for Ahsoka Tano and Luke Skywalker's first meeting. Now, we've talked about this already, I believe, but I don't think we've gotten really any big detail because this question has come up before. I think throughout the entire fandom of Star Wars, because clearly the Book of Boba Fett / Mandalorian season 1 / season 3 meeting of the two characters was not the first time. He was talking to Screen Rant, and he says, "Yeah, I have the whole story about that I devised many years ago, actually, because I had to put that title in place to do what I'm doing now and understand it. I haven't found a way to tell that story yet. I've told a piece of it afterward, but we'll see. You'd love it, and it's a great story. Then freaking make it. You're Dave Filoni. Like, I'm sorry.
I
Like,
think
you,
I think that's another very good option for Tales of the Jedi.
yes.
I think that's a very good place to put that, um, to where it would really work out. So
Well, in my mind, that would be an emotional like encounter. And in the way that they described how Tales of the Jedi is going to be told with less words and more visual poetry, I think it would be a
mhm.
really cool way to show their first meeting.
Yeah, I think so too. Especially in animation where you can kind of draw into Mark Hamill's power as of more recent. I think it could be a very good decision to do it there instead of trying to do it in live action.
Yeah. Now, you want to go ahead and cover this last article?
So in the latest issue of Empire magazine, which mostly focused on Andor coverage, there was a brief part given for Rosario Dawson as well as Natasha Lou Bordizzo. And they kind of talked about Sabine's mistakes and Ahsoka's mindset in the high stakes adventure. That in the high stakes adventure being the Ahsoka show. So Dawson explains one of the things she's most interested in is finally giving audiences a clear understanding of where Ahsoka Tano is mentally and emotionally at the start of her series, something that's only really been glimpsed at with her appearances in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. There have been 2 instances, she said, where Ahsoka shows up on a mission. You see how she's interacting with folks, but you don't really get her per se. Even fans who've lived with her for so long don't know where she's at now in this journey. Bordizzo said Sabine is so fearless and brave. with so much grace, but she still has flaws. She's making mistakes, and it's very high stakes in this galactic war to make mistakes. Furthermore, Bordizo explained that while watching Rebels is important to understand Sabine's backstory, it is not required viewing in order to understand the spinoff. It's great for audiences to have seen Rebels beforehand, but we've got a standalone chapter as it is. Rebels is so good. Please stop telling people not to watch Rebels.
I'm throwing pieces of cardboard because I don't want to break anything. I am so fed up with this idea of, oh, cartoons are for kids. You don't want to, waste your time with that or whatever. It had genuine character development for each one of these characters that you're going to be seeing or who we assume to be seeing in the Ahsoka live action series. If it wasn't important to watch Rebels, and if it wasn't important to watch Clone Wars, you wouldn't have an Ahsoka show. I'm just gonna
Really
go ahead
would
and say
not
that
be.
there.
There is Ahsoka has inspired so many characters, and no one would have latched onto her if not for those shows. And she would not be as popular as she is right now without the backing of multiple fans. Conventions that have like where's Ahsoka, Ahsoka Lives Day. And so it's just really disappointing to kind of see this take place when you can have such a fun-filled show. And I mean, Clone Wars season 7 would never have happened without that. And like, I don't understand if they're going to treat animation like this. Why did you take Clone Wars into your canon? Why did you agree to do Rebels if
Yeah.
you weren't going to treat it like it's part of the story? And I totally get having different situations. Like I'm reading a book series right now by Lorna Andrews. It's called Hidden Legacy, and she has 3 different trilogies. She has one focusing on one sister and then one on another. So you could technically pick up at either point and be able to still understand everything that's happening in that second trilogy. But you understand a lot more if you get the first trilogy. Sabine is such a powerful character, and to say that Rebels can't have impact on her future story does BS. This is a sequel. It's not a standalone. Plain and simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wish we weren't over the 2-hour mark so you could do your little video thing and take that because I think that would go wild.
I think if anything, I might be able to still make one, just not with that program. I think I can kind of finagle some stuff and create it, so it shouldn't be a problem. But that is it.
Oh my gosh, that's it. I'm so tired.
Well, let's go ahead and of course tell people where they can find us. We'll have our small little after credit discussion and then we're done. Of course, you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. Go into the link tree in the bio right there, and you can find all the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and of course, right here at Star Wars Alliance.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. It's at Slice of Katie. This show you can find on the Twitters. It's at Star Wars Alliance with the A, and the war is very important. Don't forget it. Slice of Film is on Twitter as well. I still have to get back into that account. I promise I will, and I promise I'll start posting things at some point or another. And that is on Twitter. It's at Slice of Film 1. I think what we're going to end up doing next for the next episode is we're going to kind of talk about the Lord of the Rings movies. With Rings of Power coming up, I think that's the perfect time to do it. And we're not going to do like full reviews, but we're just going to kind of talk about them, impacts, things we may like, dislike about them, just to kind of jump into Rings of Power because we're about to have a shit ton of television. Y'all, we got She-Hulk tomorrow morning. Then we got House of Dragons?
Yes, House of Dragons on Sunday.
And then in 2 weeks we have Rings of Power, and then 2 weeks after that we have Andor. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of TV coming up, and it's gonna be crazy.
yes. And only murders in the building. finale next week. Oh my gosh. Okay. Y'all, after credits are coming up, but I hope y'all have a great day or night, whatever time of day you are listening or watching, and we will see y'all next time. May the force be with you.
Only murders in the building. Okay.
Oh my gosh. What the fuck is Cinta doing? How did she do it? I did not think she was that smart.
So, okay. So, do you know? Because I'm still trying to pick up the pieces, and I think the finale will definitely mark it out for everybody who is not necessarily picking up the pieces. But you understand that what's her name? Betty. Oh shoot.
Yeah, Betty Boulder or something.
Yes. Uh you understand her story, right? You understand what they were saying at the end of the episode?
Yeah, so Cinda literally found this girl and was like, yeah, I'll pay you, come change your name, and we'll like pretend you died and nobody can figure out where you went. But you
Yes,
have to like leave and never come back to Oklahoma.
exactly. So they devised this plan because I'm assuming that they're going to tell a story about how like the big boom in podcasting came up and how
Yeah.
her show started to get a whole lot of sponsors and she became this big deal, was getting all of these money deals and everything else, and she became the next big thing. Then when of course our very quirky group of Only Murders in the Building came in, I genuinely think there's going to be they're going to reveal next episode that her podcast took a dip in sponsorships
Yep.
and in money revenue because of Only Murders in the Building. And I believe
Because they were solving a current case.
exactly. And so she devised a plan to murder somebody in the building, frame them, and that's it. And I was like, holy shit. When what's his name started saying, "Oh, how did I get one of the hottest uh
Yeah. I
girls
was
out
like,
there?" and then talking about podcasts, I was like, "Oh no, it's her." And Abby
well,
was
no,
like, "Are
because
you
they
sure?"
in the flashback at the beginning, they show you, they take you back to it's not
Yeah.
okay in Oklahoma or whatever, that first episode. And
Mhm.
then they're like, I was like, how is that going to tie into this? Why would you have that in the flashback? And then it was like, oh. And I have to just shout out Christian because Christian was like, I think it's the podcast lady. He said that at the beginning of the season. I was like, no, it can't be. I was like, oh,
Really? I
oh.
would have never guessed it. So, I had said it's one of me and Abby's first guesses. As soon as we saw, oh shoot, what is his name? Michael Rappaport is the actor who is the detective that got stabbed.
Yeah,
Um,
prepped.
yes. So as soon as I saw his face on the screen, I told Abby, he's the murderer. He's the one that he's the one that did it all. And then
He's just always the bad guy, I feel like.
and well, he has a really cool show on Netflix that is about autism. He plays a dad of a father of an autistic individual. It's a really great show. I can't think of the title at the top of my head, but I will say this: as soon as Selena Gomez's character saw the glitter, me and Abby were like, "We know it, it's him, he's
I
the
was like,
murderer."
why would he be the bad guy? I could not understand for the life of me. And then I was like, Matt brought up a good point. It was like, oh, well, like, he was just like, because he had this gym, what if he just like got into a wrestling match or something, like fell over this guy and got glitter on him? But then no, he is the bad guy. He's the doofus who fell for it.
And also, just saying, you're a police officer with a gym that is named Excessive Force. Yeah, you're not a good person. I'm sorry. That's the name of your
You're
gym.
not.
No. But also, they still haven't wrapped up the story of uh uh, uh Selena Gomez's uh small love affair of this episode of this season.
Alice?
Yes. Like, because
I
there
don't
was that.
understand how Alice knew. Because Alice has like the Frida Kahlo like painting that she turned into like the puzzle, but then she has all is not okay in Oklahoma
Well, it
on
was
there.
I th- I assumed that she had told her about how she met Martin Short's character and Steve
Okay.
Martin's character. That's what I assumed. Oh yeah, we all listened to the same podcast. This is how we got together, and this is how we solved the murder of blah blah blah. Like, that's what I assume. It's all like behind the scenes, like in between the panels type stuff. But you have to go back to the episode of when they were playing Who's the Wolf or whatever.
Yeah, that serial
And
killer.
exactly. And she lied. She had the card that she was the killer.
Yeah.
So it was pushing at something that was much darker. We saw her like reenacting all of the murder scene inside Selena Gomez's apartment, the Mabel's apartment. Like, I feel like there's still more to her character that's supposed to be revealed, and we
I
only have
feel
one
like
more
there's more
episode
too,
left.
but I think they're gonna leave it to season three, because it has been renewed for season three. I'm very pissed off that Martin Short's character with like the whole DNA test. Like I thought that was going to be such a bigger deal, but then he's like having wine with Theo about
I
it, and I'm like, you're not friends. You just tried to kill him in the elevator.
But also you have to understand that Theo and his son were kind of at odds this season also. Like,
Uh-huh.
they're kind of in the same position, but not really. They're in the same position, in the same thought of, hey, there is something between our children, between us and our
Yeah.
children. And at that point, because they are fathers, they can connect in that way. And
Yeah.
at one point in their lives, they were business partners and they were friends. So,
I get that,
other
but I'm like, you're so close with Mabel and Charles, and then you're gonna tell them, oh yeah, I'm Greek now, I guess.
I it's definitely a pride thing. And like he said, Theo, he is all I have. And now that you're his father, I have nothing have nothing else. His ex-wife, like, they divorced years ago. Like, he's all like, honestly, I could see him
Mhm.
saying, "Oh, I don't want to be like Steve Martin's character. I don't want to just be here all by myself, just waiting until I die." Like,
And I worry about the backlash from Will because he lied to Will. And I get that it made Will and him feel a little bit better, but I worry that at some point it's going to come out. And then Will's gonna go like, "Wait, you lied to me," and then they're gonna have to like try and fix it. And I'm like, I get it because you're like, nothing else matters to me. Like, you're my kid. Like that's it at the end of the day. But I'm also like,
yeah. I I did like Charles's story with the painting.
yeah,
Talk
Rose Cooper.
Finding Rose Cooper, uh getting the actual painting, and then finding the real painting underneath. We didn't get a whole lot on Charles's father, but I don't think it was necessarily super important, other than the one detail of he wasn't a great guy, but he wanted to be a great father, and it paid off
Mhm.
with that painting at the end. Um,
I think
but
so too. I'm just a little confused because it was under like the bird's cage, but it wasn't on a canvas backing. Like it wasn't on a frame under there. So then he had to all of a sudden take those nails out and then it's revealed and I'm like, wait, but it was folded up in like a cloth underneath the bird's cage.
no, it wasn't folded. it was they they showed that it was an actual, it was a canvas, but it was a thin canvas like area. I'm pretty sure. Um, do you think we see Jan again for
I
the
hope not.
final episode?
I hope not. Like I'm very curious how they're going to pull a season 3 out of this. Because I'm like, okay, Cinda's your bad guy. Are you just gonna keep adding bad guys behind this person? What's going to happen?
Yeah, it very much like I'm trying to think of there is Alice, unless Alice does something because she has a dark past.
Yeah. Because um I liked Cara Delevingne. I thought she was really good in this, so I would hope to see her continue.
I've heard some like really weird things about the actress as far as like her being involved in other things. Apparently, she was involved in the Amber Heard cuddle puddle thing. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking weird. But I like,
Celebrities are just fucking weird in general. Let's be real.
yes, they are. Yes, they are. Uh, but I have liked this season. Um, I I was surprised how good of a show this ended up turning out.
Yeah,
Um, I haven't seen Steve Martin in anything in a very long time, as well as Martin Short. One of Martin Short's best roles in my mind is not
mhm.
even in a live action like sense. It's literally him as Ben on Treasure Planet. He's my favorite character in that movie.
Okay.
Um, but like just seeing these actors come out and put on this performance, it's phenomenal. I think this is one of the best shows on Hulu right now. Uh, and yeah, I'm excited to see what a season 3 should look like. And I'm really curious if they will do the same thing that they did here and leave with that cliffhanger to push a season 3, or if season 3 starts brand new.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yep. We will see. That was a small post-credit scene for you guys, for everybody who is watching Murders in the Building. If you're not, I apologize that you kept listening because we just spoiled everything for you. But we will
Oops.
be back. We will be back next week. And yeah, we will see you guys next time.
Cheers.